series on that, and someone suggested that Canada has had a similar thing, even though it wasn't as long of a crisis as Ireland. This one is called the October Crisis. It's, the one I'm watching here is called Tongafa History, the FLQ, and October Crisis. So, Canada, a crisis? Say what? I know I'm being facetious here a little bit, but let's go ahead on YouTube and simmer and see what the October Crisis and the FLQ is all about.
Throughout the 20th century, the Canadian province of Quebec wanted independence from the whole of the rest of Canada, as it saw itself as wildly different from the rest of Canada, with its different culture and French language. In the 1960s, this broke out into the Quiet Revolution, and one particular Quebec independence group would stick out. The Front de Libération de Québec, or FLQ, was a communist Quebec nationalist group based primarily in Montreal. The FLQ has multiple parts to it, such as the Rousseau division.
Okay, right off the bat, I'm not sure if the narrator of it is Canadian or not. They call the FLQ a communist group right off the bat. Comment down below if you're Canadian, if that was a sentiment in Canada, that this was a communist group. Hit me up in the comment section.
Distance and a sister organization, the Comité de Libération Nationale, but I refer to them all as the FLQ for simplicity. The group was founded in 1963 by Gabriel Houdon, Georges Chotas, and Raymond Villeneuve, and slowly started to gain members. Though before it had even been founded, Quebec nationalist movements were already in motion. On Canada Day of 1962, a statue of John A. Macdonald in Dominion Square in Montreal was vandalized. On February 10, 1963, the statue of General James Wolfe was vandalized in Montreal as well. So there was basically two parts to the FLQ. The FLQ itself, which was mostly composed of activists and extremists, and the Rassemblement pour l'Indépendance Nationale, or RIN, which was a political party in Quebec. The RIN was less far left than the FLQ, but was still quite leftist. After the FLQ was founded in late February of 1963, the activities of the Quebec nationalists ramped up quite a bit. Throughout February and March of 1963, the FLQ attacked both military and English Canadian places in Quebec using firebombs and Molotovs. A few more statues had been vandalized as well.
Okay, because I watched something and they about this, and they sort of centered around specific events and all of that. It wasn't like a across the board history. They started here in 1963. Okay, all right. So this is going to be more in depth. Okay.
On April 1st, a federal tax building and Montreal Central Station were bombed. Nobody is killed though. A third bomb was discovered as an unsuccessful assassination attempt of Canadian Prime Minister John Diefenbaker.
Oh, okay. Wow.
On April 6th, 24 sticks of dynamite were found planted at the bottom of a CBC station on Mount Royal, Montreal. They weren't detonated but caused a stir in the population. After these attacks, the RCMP and Montreal police did dozens of searches of homes of suspected FLQ members and arrested about 20 people, including socialist leader Réal Roy. On April 20th, a Quebec nationalist riot breaks out at the Westmount RCMP headquarters. That night, the headquarters is bombed. The following night, another bomb goes off at a recruiting center in Montreal. A man is killed in the bombing, the first casualty of the revolutions. This is what really got the RCMP going. Throughout May, 24 more bombs would go off at various places in Quebec, notably at military and government sites.
No, I'll be honest. I did hear a little bit about this back in the day. A little bit about the history of this, you know. but not a whole lot. So this is kind of new to me here, and it's kind of intriguing to think that that was happening in Canada, which is now such a peaceful place. You know what I mean? Not that every place has got its problems, don't get me wrong. I totally understand that, but you know what I'm saying. You know, when people think of Canada, they think of politeness and peaceful and all of that. And to think that just like other countries, they've had their modern day situations like this.
Sites, as well as in the mailboxes of wealthy English Canadians.
Wow.
Nobody died, but a Canadian Army sergeant had his arm blown off and was paralyzed for life. In June, though, 24 members of the FLQ were arrested. Over the next few months, many more bombs were blown throughout Quebec, not killing anyone, though. The FLQ goes on robbing sprees, stealing money from banks and homes, radios from radio stations, and dynamite from construction sites. In October, though, Gabriel Houdon and Raymond Villeneuve are arrested. On January 30th of 1964, the FLQ somehow managed to rob a UN military outpost in Montreal, managing to steal a large amount of guns and supplies. 3 weeks later, they robbed another military outpost in Shawinigan. A week after that, they successfully robbed a Desjardins credit union bank in Shawinigan, stealing a lot of money, and throughout the rest of February and March, bombed more places. They robbed more banks and set off more bombs throughout April through August, with many more nationalist protests sprouting up as well. At the end of August, a failed gun store robbery by the FLQ resulted in the death of 2 innocent workers and the arrests of about 10 FLQ members. Through the rest of the year, more bombs were set off. Throughout 1965 and 1966, over 20 more large bombs are detonated throughout Quebec, leading to the deaths of a 15-year-old FLQ member and a female secretary at a factory. More bombing continues throughout 1967, including the bombing of a city hall and a high school. The FLQ, for some reason, threatens the US and says they're going to blow things up, including the Statue of Liberty. They successfully bombed multiple US consuls and embassies in Quebec before the US urges the Canadian government to do something. Throughout 1968, nothing much happened except bombings too. Although on June 24th, hundreds of Quebecois people rioted and protested as they were for some reason outraged with then Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau. The RIM was also disbanded at this time, making way for the PQ, a political party in Quebec that called for a free Quebec. On February 13th, 1969, a large bomb detonated at the Montreal Stock Exchange, injuring 20 people. On May 5th, 2 FLQ members were so angry at the Americans they decided to hijack a small airliner in New York heading to Miami and divert it to land in Cuba for some reason I don't understand. More violent protests break out throughout Quebec. On October 7th, private guards fire on an FLQ protest, but miss FLQ members and kill an off-duty cop. By the end of that year, Pierre Trudeau demanded something be done about the FLQ, and something was done. The first half of 1970 is the same, with many bombings and riots. On June 24th, a man is killed by a bomb at the National Defense Headquarters in Ottawa by the FLQ. Nothing else really happens until October, when it really gets real. This is when the October crisis takes place. On October 5th, British diplomat James R. Cross is kidnapped in Montreal by the FLQ. The FLQ...
Yeah, the video I watched basically was about, started from about here, where they kidnap Cross and another individual also.
There's a list of demands for the release of Cross, including money, freedom, and reading aloud their manifesto on live radio. A few people think these are reasonable demands. Some even show support by reading the manifesto on their radio show or writing a fair opinion of the FLQ in newspapers over the next few days. But Pierre Trudeau was having none of it. He denied the requests. So on October 10th, the FLQ kidnapped Deputy Premier Pierre Laporte. Negotiations started, but the FLQ said they will not take anything but their demands. On October 12th, Laporte wrote to his wife, telling her that he is well treated and these people are actually nice. But this would be the last time that he would talk to her, as 5 days later he was discovered dead in a car trunk near St. Hubert Airport in Montreal. With a combination of Montreal's finest detectives in the military, 2 months later James Cross was freed. And
that's something that a lot of people get caught up in stuff, and it turns violent, and they're not expecting it to turn violent. It just does. But then when you do certain things, the consequences are usually a violent outturn, especially if you're fighting for freedom. There's always somebody that is extreme enough to do something that you don't really want to happen. No, I'm not trying to defend the FLQ or anybody like that. I'm just saying, for a person who's experienced those things, most people, not all, but most people go into it not wanting to really hurt anybody. They just want change. But if they're going to get pushed back, somebody's going to get hurt. That's the way it is. You know what I mean? Somebody's going to do a pushback. And I'm not saying that the Laporte dude did a pushback. I'm just saying, whenever there's a struggle and people are trying to struggle to get freedom or recognition or something, things go south real easy, especially when you introduce arms into it. Human temperament takes over.
Many FLQ resistance cells were found and many were arrested. The FLQ was still alive though, barely, albeit. It was led by a man named Francois Mario Bacquant, who escaped Canadian law enforcement and was living in Paris. Bombs were still going off in Montreal in early 1971, and the Canadians were determined to stop it. With the help of the US, France gave Canada permission to operate on her soil, and on March 29, 1971, 2 Canadian Secret Service agents sneaked in an apartment and assassinated Bacquant with a silenced pistol. After this, Operation Bricole took place, where police forces infiltrated an FLQ cell, took down a list of names, and arrested them. After this, the FLQ was basically dead. But in 1973, the RCMP supposedly executed Operation Ham, taking info and potentially sabotaging the Quebec nationalist political group, PEQ. PEQ lost the next Quebec election, though it was close, and it wasn't until years after that it was revealed the RCMP may have tampered with the election.
Wow.
Throughout the 20th century, the Canadian...
Some revolution and thing going on in Canada, bombs and all of that. Yeah, like I said, I didn't know the extent of it. I didn't know it started all the way back in 1963. Because a while back I watched a video and they just started talking about the Cross and Laporte incidents. But someone, I don't remember who it was that suggested that I watch this, and thank you very much for suggesting that. I'll leave a link to this video in the description, so y'all could go check it out and thing. Any other videos on Canada? I've done Heritage Minutes and everything. I'll leave links to it in the video here, you know, so y'all could keep checking out, you know, my reactions to Canada. I'm very intrigued by Canada. That's why it's a reoccurring reaction to me. And thanks to all the Canadians who watch the video and suggest the videos that I could watch. Please keep suggesting so that I could learn more about your country's history, politics, culture, you name it. You understand what I'm saying? Thing. If you like this video, drop a like on it for me, please. You know what I mean? It'll help with the, you know, let other people see it and thing. We got to spread that peace and love as far and wide as we can. You all take care of each other, all right? Cool runnings.